Kia ora, g'day, welcome back once again. Here in this reaction, I got, this was a video that was shared during a live stream actually, and the title of it is Mosab Hassan Yousef, My Father Founded Hamas, Stories of Us, and then Prager, You. So anyway, I haven't seen this. I did watch the first probably 15 seconds and I thought, wow, this is interesting. So let's jump into this one.
The fact that Hamas use their own children as human shields should not give Hamas a ticket to more power and to more territory and to more money.
That was the part that I saw. I was like, well, yeah, duh. This seems like a no-brainer.
My name is Mosab Hassan Yousef, and this is my story.
Son of Hamas, I just saw there at the bottom part.
I was born in the West Bank of the Jordanian River. I was brought up in an Islamic religious family. My father was a Muslim Brotherhood leader. Later, he became
The Muslim Brotherhood. It's isn't that designated as a terrorist organization?
a Hamas leader. And the honest truth, he was very good dad. He loved me within the best of his ability. My parents told us that we were going to heaven, and the non-Muslims, the Jews, the Christians, the rest of the world, if they don't convert to Islam, they are doomed to hell. When I was
Doomed to hell, people. Those who do not convert. Holy heck. What an upbringing.
a child, I witnessed lots of killing and violence. There was no government, lots of chaos and disorder. People were literally killing each other in the streets. I'm talking about internal Palestinian conflict, where a father would actually kill his daughter, or a brother would kill his sister for honor. I was beaten up in the
That's just so stupid, eh? Where a brother would kill his sister, or was it a father would kill his sister, or a brother would kill his sister, and a father would kill his brother or son or whatever for honor. They're just blinking pack of bloody retards kicking around. The sad thing is, regardless of the society, we've still got blinking trucking idiots going around killing each other to this day. We've got young teenagers responsible for the deaths and or deaths of older people, like over in Australia, as an example. But that happens everywhere. No doubt it's happened here in NZ as well, and or will likely happen here. It's just, yeah, but this is next level in terms of what he's describing anyway.
school, on the hands of the principal. I was beaten up in the street. I was beaten up on the hands of the imam at the mosque. It was not easy for a child. Wherever you go, you just have to survive. I was always
Is the imam, is that like the spiritual leader? Is that like the bishop of, or the priest, or the blank and whatever they are, the leader, the minister of the church or their religion? Again, that's not unique, eh, in terms of the stuff that has happened and probably still happens to this day across various religions, blank and young people being abused.
running for my life. There was a Muslim Brotherhood and the summer camps, which I would participate in those camps, go with my father. And the Muslim Brotherhood was actually preparing a generation of warriors. I did not understand that that was preparation for the birth of a militia. At the beginning of Hamas was a very secretive movement, so my father did not talk about that or his involvement with Hamas, even though he was one of the founders of Hamas. Hamas invested lots of work in indoctrination. When you recruit people by the name of the nation and by the name of God, you can grow like wildfire. I became involved because
Wow, that's an interesting point that he mentioned. I think I spoke about in a reaction not that long ago in terms of the recruitment. Maybe it was during a live, but the recruitment tactics, techniques, they clearly have organized and sorted themselves out where they've got it down pat. I think I might have been talking about the Bondi terror attacks and how that came about with the young fellow based on some of the wording or words, wording, the interview that the spy that was working for ASIO, Marcus, I think they called him, pseudonym or alias, whatever you want to call it, when he was talking about the recruitment processes. Like, they've got things dialed in. When I just saw that word indoctrination or indoctrinated, they've clearly got things that they know will work, that will, how they identify and profile individuals to then go to work and, like I said, indoctrinate them into their belief and their cause.
I was following the lead of my father. My father is a revolutionary leader, a religious leader, and I want to be that. I don't want to be the follower, I wanted to be the leader. We thought killing for the cause was totally justified. We were taught that there were no Israeli civilians at all, that everybody was a soldier.
Wow, far out. Just listening to this guy, like, this is massively brave of this individual to be sitting here speaking like this. I can only assume that he's probably got a bounty on his head. I wouldn't be surprised if he does, just the way he's speaking, because I don't think that those in Hamas would be wanting him out there speaking the way that he is. I wonder, excuse me, I wonder what the story is with his family, his dad. Maybe his dad has passed away now, I don't know. But to be growing up and surrounded in and around that, he spoke about the camps that they went on as well, and he just followed his father's lead. Like, typically people, if you're lucky enough or fortunate enough to have both parents, you're typically going to follow the lead of, you know, what your parents do for the most part, I think, and or you're going to take what they say as being true and accurate and what you need to do. So this guy, I think from the the comment and the suggestion that I got in relation to this video is that this guy has removed himself from that lifestyle completely, which is pretty incredible just in and of itself.
Could twist any scripture to serve their political agendas.
Sorry, I got to pause that again. When he just said, what they'll twist any scripture to suit their agenda. Let's just hear that again. Sorry.
Scripture to serve aliens at all, that everybody was a soldier. They could twist any scripture to serve their political agendas.
They could twist any scripture to serve their political agendas. I think that still happens. I'm sure that still happens to this day. Scripture's been touted and spouted and given meaning by individuals, right or wrong. You know, they either have personal meanings to those individuals or their church leaders tout and spout a particular meaning to those verses or those scripture, and then it's taken as gospel, it's taken as fact, it's taken as that's what that means, and that's what I need to do because of it. Doesn't necessarily need to be just scripture or anything though, but that is a powerful tool in a lot of societies, nationalities, ethnicities, whatever you want to call it. But people can twist a whole bunch of different stories and create narratives out of thin air in order to achieve their purposes or their objective, i.e. the 2003 Iraq invasion.
The PLO, the Palestinian Liberation Organization, they invested lots of money and lots of energy in turning the Palestinians or the Arabs in the West Bank and in Gaza Strip to disobey Israel, to erupt violence, to launch the Intifada, ethnic cleansing committed by Hamas. They thought fighting Israel from within is a lot more effective than fighting Israel from abroad. Suicide bombing attack waves, stabbing attacks and mass shooting start happening. And this is when Israel had to do extreme measures and prevented many Arabs from the West Bank to cross into Israel because they didn't know who was a suicide bomber.
Well, this guy must surely have a bounty on his head, eh? Like what he's talking about, Israel will be loving it. supporters of Israel and all that sort of thing. Like I know very little about what apparently has been happening over there, and there have been calls and people protesting saying that Israel is committing genocide. This guy's saying the complete opposite is what was happening, and hasn't gotten to it fully yet because I keep interrupting, but sounds like he's about to talk about, or has started to allude to, from his version of events, that Israel's needed to step in because of the genocide that the Palestinians are doing and or creating themselves. Pretty crazy. This guy surely must be on one of their hit lists. I have no doubt.
It wasn't. So we heard about all the stories of the freedom fighters, having the guns and just shooting the occupiers, colonizers. So we wanted to follow that lead. We wanted to be the tough guys. And this is how I got in trouble. I purchased guns even before I became 18 with actually intention to form a military cell. Israel was on our tail. The moment we got the guns, all of us were arrested in no time.
Before he was 18, fighting age males, young boys essentially, that are being indoctrinated. This is the type of, and it's likely been around for a long period of time. I don't profess to be an expert in that space, but it's well documented and well known that that's the type of environment that soldiers and stuff are going into. SF aside, just soldiering in general, militaries in general, going into environments whereby you don't know if there's going to be a young child on a rooftop or in a building or in the room that you open who's standing there waiting to greet you with an AK-47 or a machine gun of some description or a grenade or whatever, or a suicide vest bomb. It's just, that level of indoctrination, brainwashing, and convincing your children to do something like that and to fight in causes like that just sort of paints a pretty sobering picture and a sobering reality of the type of just how complex that sort of environment and that fighting has been for those that have been, particularly during that global war on terror. I don't know that we've heard, I haven't seen and or heard a lot of it other than hearing regular reports and commentary from soldiers that have been over there. They are very mindful of all their fighting aged males. And it seems like fighting age males could be in the single digits, in terms of young people, unfortunately, being coerced, indoctrinated, forced to fight for a cause that they don't know anything else. And it's, if you're been brainwashed from such a young age to believe something wholeheartedly, that your parents and or dare I say your father or that male role model figure in your life is raising you and teaching you to believe and buy into, it's unlikely. I would assume it's very unlikely that you're going to be convinced of anything else.
The rest was not easy. Unfortunately, I got beaten up by the Israeli soldiers, which basically against the Israeli law. But in war, there are violations, and I was a victim of that situation. And Israel was so desperate to know the masterminds of suicide bombing attacks. They had to put physical pressure on Hamas military wing. One of the Israeli intelligence recruiters, he offered me that we work together to stop suicide bombing attacks for the sake of humanity. And I was thinking to myself, this is my opportunity. I will just say yes. And the moment they trust me, I'm going to destroy them. My first intention.
Wow, this guy is blinking no filter, eh? Like honest, upfront about what was going on in his head. I have to admit that is something that was going on in my head. Be a double agent. Yes, I'll help you, but realistically, he's giving the information back to the people that he's been raised by, that he's been indoctrinated by, so that he can, like he said, his own words, so he can destroy them, Israel. Wow.
Was to be a double agent against Israel, not to work for Israel. And I thought I would just destroy them from within. When I was transferred to the main prison where other Hamas members were, I told Hamas my story. I told them I need support. I agreed to work with the Israeli intelligence, and I wanted to just kill all of them, everybody who laid hand on me. This is my intention. Now Hamas said it was not convincing. So instead of helping me, actually, they started interrogating me as a suspect. So I told them, you must be out of your mind. I wouldn't betray my father. But they did not believe. And for about 16 months in Israeli prison, I struggled with this thing. They did not torture me, but it was during a time where they were torturing people for suspicion of collaborating with Israel.
Hamas was torturing people in Israeli prison?
Yes, it was like a nightmare. They were killing other people.
Right. Hamas torturing and killing their own people. That's this guy talking about, his experience of what he went through. And I don't know, as I sit here and listen to that, to me, it sounds like it lines up with what he shared earlier, that, what is it? The Palestinian Liberation, whatever they blink and call themselves, that they decided to start killing their own people. I think that's what he was speaking about earlier. So the fact that they're in a prison, they've got a number of Hamas people in the prison, in an Israeli prison, bloody hell, get the words out, and that they're finding ways to torture their own people because they're concerned that they're going to be convinced to work for Israel, is just that sort of, to me, that makes sense, I suppose, in my head. Like, why wouldn't they do that? Like, the trust would be low, they'd be not convinced. And then this guy, but he's saying he wasn't tortured. That's interesting. Anyway.
For being suspects. But in my case, they did not touch me because of my father's reputation. Hamas leaders in prison.
Okay, well, that gives me a bit more context. So his dad, Blinken, big chief, big cheese. And so they didn't torture him because of that. So if they didn't torture him because of that, I would have thought that they'd believe him. This is the son of, from what he's saying, his dad being a founder of Hamas. Why would they then not believe him? And or if they didn't believe him, why didn't they torture him? Like he's saying, because his dad was so high up, but his dad's not there in prison. So yeah, anyway.
Weren't just any leaders. They were the top Hamas leaders. I met those people in person. I saw them in action. I saw their brutality, and they had no mercy. They had no mercy towards Israel. They had no mercy towards Palestinians, and they had no mercy without evidence.
Wow, that's listening to this guy speak about Hamas, and just those words they keep repeating over and over in my head as I listen to this and watch it. They had no mercy. They had no mercy. They had no mercy. And that last part, they had no mercy. Well, I assume it's the last part. They had no mercy even without evidence or words to that effect. My thoughts, when you're confronted with and or fighting against an enemy that has no mercy for the other side, and or even, by the sounds of things, for their own people, if they suspect that you are not committed to the cause, so to speak, it makes it, what's the words I'm looking for? Makes it easy for one to imagine the worst, and the worst likely probably doesn't even scratch the surface in terms of what they would do to people, and likely what they have done to people, whether it's Israelis or whether it's to their own people, if you're not aligned with their cause or if you're not fighting on their side. So, man, yeah, that's crazy. And I think that's why a lot of people will sit back and look at when conflict happens and say things like, well, it's war, there are no rules in war. And I think by and large that is true for a number of people that you're fighting against. But again, Western civilizations and countries being what they are and signatories to the Geneva Convention, we do expect a higher level of professionalism and restraint on our military forces. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think otherwise you really do, and you really would go to some incredibly dark places from a personal perspective, which some of those, which I think would be, dare I say, potentially too hard for people to come back from. That's what I think anyway. Clearly it can be done if there are, based on what this guy's saying, if those types of things are happening and people literally have no mercy for whoever it is that they are inflicting pain and suffering on.
I came to the realization the hard way that if Hamas succeeded in destroying Israel and building an Islamic state, their state, it would be an absolute waste of life for something that is going to be only ugly. They tortured people, they made people create stories that weren't true.
Wow. This guy surely has, like, here's somebody with a massive amount of courage. As I listen to this guy, he's talking about, he's talking in a way that goes completely against his entire upbringing, the way he was raised. He's spoken about his father. I'm sure his mother's in the picture there somewhere too, but the fathers, the male, dare I say, role model figures for these young men, and dare I say probably for the females as well, their impact, their influence is huge. And so for this guy openly showing his face, talking the way that he's talking so openly and honestly, it appears to me anyway, listening to him, he's not only surely got a target on his back or a bounty on his head, but is clearly very brave and has witnessed and seen things that I, probably can't even imagine, that have impacted him so much so that he has gone completely in the opposite direction, as I sit here and listen to him speaking, that is, completely against the way that he was raised, the way that he was indoctrinated, what he was told and led to believe by his father, by the other leaders, through the camps that he attended, through the training camps to become militia and fighters. It's just, that is a massive chain of events to disrupt and, dare I say, break the indoctrination of which he's experienced and had his entire life up until that point. For him to then be sitting down and looking at what's happening and looking at what his own people from Hamas are doing to his people, and to now sit here and then say, if he helps Hamas take out Israel and that they get put into power and that they create this Islamic state that they're wanting to create, for him to then be saying that that would be a waste of human life, that's huge. I get it, it's only one person speaking, but one person speaking is probably all it takes to start. And then listening to what it is that he's saying and how and what he's articulating, I could understand, I can't speak for everybody else, but I could understand how and why it would be so hard for people raised in that way to leave that sort of lifestyle, and or for them to be able to spin the narratives that they put out there in regards to what they state Israel is doing, etc., etc. Which, don't get me wrong, there's probably, I wouldn't be surprised if there's some atrocities that are happening on both sides of the conflict. But man, yeah, anyway, let's carry on.
Hence, many people were killed and they were innocent people. It made me ask big questions about Hamas, their true nature, and their possible future.
His critical thinking, by the sounds of things, is kicking in, or kicked in, as he's witnessing and seeing all these things. Man, this guy is super interesting.
When I was released from prison, I thought to myself, on one hand, I cannot work for Israel because there is nothing in common between me and them.
And they probably, dare I say, they probably wouldn't trust him. I don't know. Or maybe they'd probably look to utilize him, but still be keeping a cautious eye on him, so to speak.
And I cannot work for Hamas anymore. But I was surprised when Hamas security wing came knocking on my door to follow up on the case inside prison. There is no escape from this people. And I didn't know how to protect myself. The cause is the most important in that culture. Hamas choose their ideology over the well-being and the future of an entire generation. So my father is no different. And in fact, my father was the first to betray me. When he had to choose between the cause and his own flesh, his own son, he chose the cause.
Right. That's just a different level of just commitment, and I guess I want to say hate against another country or other people or other beliefs. You're gonna betray, or that's the word that this fella's using in regards to his father. You're gonna betray your own flesh and blood for a cause that no doubt he can see and has seen causes hurt and pain and suffering, involves killing people. People might say the same thing. Well, you joined the army. Like, what did you expect was going to have to happen? I guess the reasons and the rationale behind individual choices to go and do things like that, i.e. join the military as an example, deploy on operations, serve, be a first responder, start a company, be fraudulent in people's behavior, be a criminal, join a gang, whatever. Everybody's individual decisions, circumstances, development, growth, whatever you want to call it, leads all of us to making certain decisions. But a parent betraying their own child, and he mentioned it earlier, brother killed their sister, father killed their son, or whatever, for honor. It's just trucking ridiculous, out the gate ridiculous to me.
Israel came to follow up for my promise to stop suicide bombing attacks. And I was afraid that they were actually going to punish me for having the original intention of being a double agent. And the answer was, son, you don't have to worry about this. Many people start like this with us. They hate us. It's part of your culture. You don't know who we are. But now you need to understand that your life is in danger. They said, we can help you with this. This is the least we can do. Their entire work was to protect me from Hamas. So for me, as a youngster, I came from a society of savages into the most advanced.
Well, it's good that, he's used that word. He's come from a society of savages. And now he's saying he's come to most advanced. Sorry, I cut him off before he finished.
Intelligence service in the world. So for about 4 to 6 years of a very serious work, we were able to deconstruct the Hamas operation in the entire West Bank.
It would have been good if there wasn't so much background music, just so I can really tune in easier on listening to this guy. It hasn't been too bad, but I'm just starting to notice the music a bit more and more now. What did he say? Something. I just need to go back a little bit as I say that. Yeah, it's able to deconstruct. Maybe I'll go from here.
The Hamas operation in the entire West Bank. The payment, for me, it was the protection, because I did not trust Hamas anymore. I did not even trust my father anymore. And I was able to trust the Israeli intelligence because they did practical steps immediately of giving me cover, giving me the knowledge that I needed.
Wow. Those agents, those Israeli spies, we'll call them, clearly very good at their job. If this is all true, like if this isn't smoke and mirrors, like, this guy's out here, got his face out here. I don't know. Is there a counter from Hamas, from the Palestinians, saying that this guy was never raised by us here, it has nothing to do, never had anything to do with Hamas? Is there going to be those sort of psychological games taking place? Excuse me, is this a propaganda pitch from the Israelis? I don't know. I'm no expert in that space, but this guy's, like I said, here for the whole world to see. not hiding himself, not hiding behind a blinking black blurry dot shadow, unlike some other twats that are making allegations of war crimes. This guy is basically, here I am.
The operation was very dangerous, and Hamas was already in suspicion of me. So I decided to just leave the territory. I could not go to any Arab country, and the best, most secure place was the United States. So this is why I migrated to the US. I thought something could happen.
Wow. Imagine if he is a double agent, though. You know, he's gone through all of this. There's somehow some big elaborate part of the cause, the ideology. And imagine if, hopefully he's not, you know, and I'm not saying that he is, but far out. Just the way of the world and just the need to have your guard up all the time is crazy, especially in this sort of space and places like what he's talking about, from his upbringing to being captured to going through to being, I want to say converted, being turned to the other side, so to speak, or presumably being turned, and him sitting here speaking again for the world to see, here I am, I'm this guy that was Hamas. Now I can see the error of my ways, so to speak, and now I'm completely anti-Hamas, if he is, and help the Israeli intelligence service, and now I've found refuge and safety in the United States. I would say surely he is being closely watched. I would assume he's being closely watched by the United States, that there must be people there allocated to keeping an eye on this guy.
To me. And I did not want my experience in the Middle East to go in void. So I felt the need to document it. And this is why we start writing the book. But I did not want my father to hear from the media or from the TV. So I called him. It was a short window while he was in Israeli prison. And I told him the truth. It was the hardest conversation I ever had, I have to say. So when I told him the story, he went silent. I broke the silence. I told him, listen, Dad, if you want to disown me, you can go ahead. I know this is very hard on you, and I know that you have to protect my brothers. Because in that culture, if I wasn't there and my father did not disown me, other tribes have the right to kill any of my siblings on my behalf. This is
Right. Just those words sink in, eh? Just listening to that. If his father doesn't disown him, other villagers or other people from other tribes have the right to come and kill his siblings. Basically, kill the rest of his bloodline, so to speak, which when he spoke earlier, like there's just a few dots in this guy's story and his corridor and what he's talking about that are just connecting in terms of the no mercy part that he spoke about earlier. There is no mercy for the Israelis, no mercy for traitors within their own regime, no mercy even without evidence. There's no mercy shown or given. Wow.
is how brutal that culture. There is no mercy in this case. So he told me, this is not a choice. This is not an option. He said, you will always be my son and I will always love you. And this was his final words. 2 days later, I heard from the media that he disowned me, and this was the last conversation I had with him.
Wow. So that's the last conversation that he had with him. Whether or not that is what his dad said to him, because he, hopefully somewhere inside that man's body and in his brain and in his heart and in his, dare I say, his spirit and soul, he realized and knows that this is his son, his flesh and blood. And maybe that was his way of letting him know that he still loves him, even though he probably is not happy about what he's done. But for the for the sake and safety and well-being of probably not only for himself but also his other sons, this guy's siblings, needed to publicly disown him, I assume, I imagine. Otherwise, what parent wants to see their children get murdered or be tortured and then murdered? Nobody.
It was very hard at the beginning. The guilt that came with it, to get my entire family stained by shame while they still live there. This was the only part that was out of my control, because I was here in the United States and I was protected by a new country, by a new system that validated actually what I did from a moral point of view. But for the rest of my family, they were still there and they had to deal with this for the rest of their lives. I understood the consequences of such a decision. It was my moral responsibility to write the book, and my entire life was sacrificed, everything. All I was trying to do to save human lives, all I was trying to do is to see a higher truth than the conditioning of my society. Revenge is a fundamental part.
Wow, this guy seems super intelligent. What did he say? What I was trying to do is see a higher truth than the condition of, or than the something of his conditioning or whatever. Trying to save lives. I suppose you don't need to have a lot of intelligence to look at a situation and go, it's wrong to be killing so many people. Why are we doing it? And it's even more wrong, why are we killing our own people and trying to make it look like somebody else is doing it, if that's what was happening? Based on what this guy's been talking about, it sounds like, from his perspective and his view, that's what he saw happening, even in spite of the conditioning, the indoctrination that he went through, that he was raised in. He was still able to see that something wasn't right. And he's in America now. Like I can't say that I believe that he would be just not being watched by people there in America, or certain agencies, what they call them, three-letter agency wise. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But this is a huge call. Again, I don't know if it's propaganda, if this is real or what, but I haven't seen anything from Hamas coming out and saying this guy's a fraud, he was never with us or whatever.
Part of that culture. It's all about honor and shame. It's not about right and wrong. Violence against non-Muslims is rooted in Islam, whether we like it or not. We don't want Hamas ideology and the Muslim Brotherhood ideology to spread. We have to counter it. That's part of our moral responsibility towards the world, especially our allies. Israel is a great ally. America as a superpower has a responsibility towards global security. We depend on the rest of the world. We depend on the Middle East, not only for energy, but we depend on the security and the stability of the region. Because if that goes out of control, our commerce, our way of life, everything that we do will be jeopardized. The fact that Hamas used their own children as human shields should not give Hamas a ticket to more power and to more territory and to more money. Hamas' goal is beyond the river and the sea, is beyond any political border, is beyond Israel. Hamas.
What he's said, everything that he's said so far, like I agree with. I think that part there was the first part that they had at the start, where I paused and said, well, yeah, that's like a no-brainer. But listening to, man, the stuff that he's speaking about and the way he's describing and articulating things, it's like you're going from one end of the spectrum all the way to the other. And his in-between, to me, seems like his in-between and his moment of reckoning or enlightenment or an epiphany, whatever you want to call it, has been that middle piece where he's been captured with the weapons I think he spoke about, going into the prison system. He did get beaten, which he spoke about. Must be a fairly useful and, dare I say, has its merits techniques to get information out of people. Decided that he was going to be a double agent, tell them what they want to hear. So I could imagine that being a part and playing into his mind, especially with how he was raised and everything like that. Letting the people that he feels aligned to based on his whole upbringing, and then seeing that they don't trust him, and him getting a sense and feeling that they don't trust him, and him seeing, based on what he shared, them torturing his people, their own people, because they don't think, or they think that they're giving information to the Israelis, them following up with him feeling betrayed by his father, the Israelis coming back and putting into action practical steps, I think he said, to mitigate the risks to him, and the payment was protection for him. And then obviously getting him moved to America, by the sounds of things, a coordinated effort. To him now being so far away from where he was, how he was raised, to just being at this polar opposite end of the spectrum, and sitting here the way that he is again, for fear of banging on about the same thing. But this is blank, and he's got some massive kahunas, is how I would describe it. And credit to him. If what he's saying and doing is true and has done is true, and mad respect to him with regards to him putting himself out there and talking about things from his lived personal experience.
Hamas's aspiration is global, and if Israel fails to destroy Hamas in Gaza, it will be the birth of an empire of savages, and we cannot allow this to happen. Because if Hamas succeed in bringing Israel to its knees, many other Islamists can do the same, and there would be so many of them. The Muslim Brotherhood is here in the United States.
And it's likely in other parts of the world as well. But just listening to him speak about that, there's a whole bunch of clips and stuff out there. I haven't done reactions to them. I've seen some of them pop up from time to time on my Instagram, of people, I assume part of this Muslim Brotherhood, whatever they want to call themselves, Islamic State or whatever, talking about, there was one clip that I saw, was talking about the guy, even if he rapes a child or commits murder or does all these things, but then he kneels and prays every day to Allah, or however many times a day they pray or whatever, he is forgiven, and he is better than those that never murder or rape women and children and or do these stupid things against humanity or against other people. I was just like, wow. And there were a couple of people listening to it and then giving their take. And I just thought to myself, holy heck, that the level of brainwashing and indoctrination that happens, that they clearly must have down to a science, the way that it impacts those individuals and how they take that and run with it, regardless of which country they go into. The bad ones it is that I'm talking about. I'm not trying to say that every Muslim has these thoughts or this ideology, but there are clearly a number of them, hundreds of thousands or hundreds of millions of them, that carry that deeply rooted belief or these deeply rooted ideologies and thoughts, and they're going to take that and run with that in the places that they go and look to immigrate to and then become a part of. And this guy talking about the Muslim Brotherhood is in the United States, which I think everybody knows and acknowledges. It would be in the UK as well. It would be in Canada. It would be in Australia. It's probably here in New Zealand, even as isolated as we are, permeating every part of the world, no doubt. Should be concerning for everybody. And hence the immigration laws and what the government does and or doesn't do is a large topic of discussion, as it should be, because people are slipping through the security measures, safety measures designed and intended to protect the citizens and or the people of those countries or of our country. But it's failing. It seems it's failing. It's not doing its job the way that it should.
We see Islamists and communists marching together in the same street, having a common goal. And their goal is the destruction and the fall of the American civilization. How could any American not consider this as an immediate threat? Is this the time when the Allies abandon their friends? Just because we have some angry pro-Palestine thinking that this is a cool thing, exploiting the American freedoms, they're anti-civilization, they're anti-America, they're anti-freedom. If Hamas laid down their weapons, they're anti-freedom.
Just look at that. I wanted to go back to that. He's talking about the people where he was born and raised, what he was raised to believe in wholeheartedly, how he was committed to the cause. And I spoke about him being at one end of the spectrum, now he's at the polar opposite. This is what, from his experience, his perspective, his understanding, having lived it, they are anti-civilization, anti-America, anti-freedom, or anti all of those things, and probably anti a whole bunch more. This should be, this seems like this should be something that every government in power of any country should have to watch. This should be a mandatory piece of study or watching material, whatever the right words are, for those in positions of power, prime ministers, presidents, etc., of their countries, so that you can use this as a guide to be more critical, to be more, to show more strength and backbone and spine, like this fella's showing, in comparison to submitting to Blinken or the fluff and smoke and mirrors that get touted around about not being diverse enough and not providing equal opportunity, and that the benefits of immigration outweigh these types of things, or the made up concerns of other people. Like, this isn't just anyone. Like, I don't know him personally, but doesn't sound or seem like just anyone that is just speaking out their backside that hasn't lived it. This sounds like it's coming from somebody who has. Probably, maybe famous last words, until maybe Hamas come out and go, that guy's blinking load of rubbish. There's no record of him. He was never born here. He's an American spy, born and raised in America, and instructed and taught to say these sorts of things about us and our regime. Yeah, who knows? But I think there's some value in leaders of the world, or the relevant ministers for immigration, whoever has those portfolios, should be watching and, or dare I say, paying attention to.
If Hamas laid down their weapons today, there will be peace. But if Israel laid down their weapons, there will be destruction of the Western civilization. This is why I speak as loud as I can.
Well, credit to you, bro. Mosab Hassan Yousef. That's why he speaks as loud as he can. If Hamas lays down their weapons, there will be peace, he says. If Israel lays down their weapons, well, essentially what I'm getting from that is they would just be annihilated, and Hamas would just infiltrate in there and wipe out. If they show no mercy, if everything of what this guy has said is true, they would just sweep through and wipe out everybody there, convert or die. And if you don't convert, well, then you're going to die. And if you achieve that and do that in one place or one country, what's to stop you from thinking and or believing that you can't do it in another? So, yeah, it's just crazy. Crazy. Man, shout out to Rubber Kiwi for sending through this video for me to do a reaction to. Man, I could sit and watch that again and probably have either the same or similar thoughts or different thoughts. I just think now, as I've finished watching this, man, I should have done this as a live, but maybe not, because probably would have taken 5 hours, and as it is, this has been 50 minutes. So anyway, I'll wrap this one up here. Again, shout out Rubber Kiwi for sending this suggestion through for me to do a reaction to. Very eye-opening for me personally, listening to this guy. Actually, probably makes me want to go on a little bit of a rabbit hole and type this guy's name into YouTube, which I probably will, and see if he's done other interviews, and or see if there's any counters from Hamas, like I've mentioned in this reaction, saying that guy was never Hamas, he's not part of any family, his dad was never a founder of Hamas, etc., etc. Surely what he's doing and what he's done, and this video being out there, I would imagine likely only hurts his family even more. And if Hamas truly do have that no mercy approach in terms of what he's spoken about, I wouldn't be surprised if his entire family was annihilated, was removed, struck from the record books or the history books, so to speak, to support Hamas's claims, if they did, saying that this guy, Mosab Hassan Yousef, never was part of Hamas. Anyway, thank you very much for your time. Be interested to hear your thoughts. What do you think of this guy? Do you believe him? Do you think he's brave? Do you think he's full of it, full of caca, and that he's just making stuff up? Do you think he's a double agent, and that he's just used all of that to get into America, and now he's actively still part of the Muslim Brotherhood, etc., with a plan to destroy the West and or America in this case? But yeah, whack it in the comments in terms of what you think. If you haven't already, whacked it in the comments of this particular video, which I haven't read the comments of that, of this video. Maybe you've got your comments and stuff in there. But anyway, I do appreciate your time and support, and I do enjoy reading people's comments, particularly those that are more along the lines of actually soaking in what it is that they're seeing and hearing and feeling, and then speaking to that in some sort of coherent way. If you're just a retarded twat who just bangs on about rubbish, well, then I probably still have a bit of a chuckle, I must admit, when I read those comments. And at the end of the day, you're probably good for the algorithm for my channel. So if you want to be one of those retarded twats and comment that way, then feel free. Otherwise, the rest of you, normal people, look after yourselves, and you'll see me in the next one, and or I'll read your comments and in this video down the track.